Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brandon Sazu. I'm chairman of the Crow Creek Sioux Tribe. Here you have a lot of people here today gonna give their testimony, and we really need to listen to that. Really, it's about our children.
So the last day I went to court, the very last court date, this was it. She said, if you can't pass what I tell you, what I told you to do, she said, you're not getting your kids back. We're going to terminate your rights. So the last court date, I took my boss and my coworkers and some of my caseworkers that I had the past 5 years, and she was all glad and everything about that. And she said, you haven't done enough. Your kids aren't coming home. We're going to terminate your parental rights. So she asked me, is there anything you have to say to the court? I said, yes, there is, Your Honor. I stood up. I said, for the past 5 years, I had done everything you asked me to, and I even done things you didn't ask me to do, hoping you would look on me on favor, like you do the white people that come in here. I said, but you don't. I said, you know what? I said, there's nothing left for me to do. I can't do anything else. There's nothing left for me to do but turn white, and you'll give my kids back. And she said, oh, I can't believe you said that in my court. And I said, well, I can't believe you make me feel that way.
Hello, my name is Susan Crow. I'm enrolled in Crow Creek Sioux Tribe. But my adventures with the state of South Dakota were over my grandchildren. 2 of my grandchildren were taken from my oldest daughter. And when they took them, they never reported back to my tribe that they had them. I had to call the tribe. They took my grandchildren in May. They had them up for adoption by September. And they never told us. They never told my daughter. They never told me. A friend of ours read it in a newspaper in the tiniest print you ever saw. So they told my daughter if she got a job, she went to treatment, they would give her kids back. So she did. They told her she'd have them back by December. She didn't. They told her they were going to go after her rights next. So she tried to commit suicide. So they took her to court. They took her rights away. And the same day, I filed for adoption of my own grandkids. I didn't wait for them to tell me anything. I went to foster parenting class. I went to Indian foster parenting class. They came, inspected my home, I don't know how many times. They even checked the temperature of my hot water. Where I worked, they'd come up with 10 minutes before court. Are you going to be here? I told them I'm coming. My job said, if you leave, you might lose your job. I said, okay, then I'm losing my job because I'm not going to lose my grandkids. But it was a matter of winning or losing. The state of South Dakota didn't want to lose to me, the sober, responsible grandmother. So they gave them to this white woman and this Mexican man with a prison record a mile long. That's just another termination of our tribes and our people. Just another boarding school tactic. Whatever I can do, wherever I can go, whatever I can say, I'm going to help whoever I can to help them get their grandkids. Pilamia.
Throughout the 2 years I fought with them, I almost lost my son so many times because of them. If they would have given him the right medicines, he wouldn't have ever been hurt. When I asked him, I tried it your way for a year, now let me try it my way. Let me bring my people in here. I have my uncles, my relatives who are medicine men who go through ceremonies and stuff. And they advised me that if I took him into ceremonies, that they'll take him right away because that's me trying to kill him. That I was trying to kill him by putting him in a sweat lodge. It ended up I was prosecuted for medical neglect against my 12, well, he's now 12, but he was about 2.5 years old at that time. I sat there until 2 o'clock in the morning with them interrogating me, with them intimidating me, threatening to send me to prison, threatening all kinds of things to me, unless if I give my kids up. You know, that was the only way I can get out of that office, is to give up my kids. And I told him I'll be able to go to prison. I said, I don't care, I'll go to prison for my kids. And finally, at 2 o'clock in the morning, I broke. I just finally had enough of it. I couldn't take it no more. I called up my brother to let him know that they're going to get taken away. And he pleaded with me to do whatever I can to not let him be taken. And I told him I have to. I don't know what else to do. Otherwise, they'll send him to prison, they'll send me to prison, and there will be no chance to getting back my kids. At all, no chance. That's what they told me. And if I give them my kids, I will have some kind of chance.
I've been told that at the noon meeting, the Secretary, through the Department of Interior, shared with our tribal ICWA directors that he has no idea, nor do his staff, as to what to do with this issue. Now, I understand that the Department of Interior is there for rocks, trees, animals, birds, and the like. The message needs to be taken to President Obama that we're not trees, animals, birds, rocks. We don't have the time to educate a department from the United States of America that's supposed to be working as partners with our children in all of our causes in Indian country. And we sit and wonder why we're in these situations of genocide. But I respect the honesty.
The Indian Child Welfare Act is a very important statute, and it was in fact enacted for a very important reason. It was designed to address a very real problem, and in South Dakota, at least, the problem still seems to exist. It doesn't seem that the Indian Child Welfare Act has been all that we need, or at least the way it's been implemented to fully tackle the problem. One of the things I'm sort of baffled about, I guess, is how we move forward without the state at the table. The Indian Child Welfare Act is a law that regulates states. That's what it does. It makes states be respectful towards Indian children, and if they're not in the room, we're not getting through to the people that we need to get through to. And so I think that that's really important. And so like I said, I remain baffled, and we have a lot of things to figure out.
The governor's not here. The governor's secretary of tribal relations is not here. And they wonder why we have to go to federal court to sue them. We tried to negotiate with policymakers of the state. And they told us, we'll talk to you as long as you promise not to sue us. Well, that's not going to work. So the problem is an institutional arrogance on the part of the government of the state of South Dakota. It's the kind of paternalistic arrogance that says, we know how to raise your family so much better than you do. Why don't you just go along for the ride and you won't have problems?
Top officials from Washington took their seats. The Secretary of the Bureau of Indian Affairs, officials from the Department of Health and Human Services, staffers from 3 members of Congress, and 2 trial attorneys from the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division. But the seats for South Dakota state officials were empty. No one from the state or South Dakota's Department of Social Services was coming.
The states get almost 60 cents on every dollar spent on social services for families, reimbursed by the federal government through various funding mechanisms, but the biggest is 4E. But the hook with 4E is The feds only pay if the child has been removed from home. They don't pay to keep the child at home and help the family get better. They don't pay to keep that child in place. They pay only after removal. So when administrators start to build service programs, they build programs around where they can get funding. And they can get over half of the cost reimbursed by the feds if the program is built around removal.
Congress enacted ICWA in furtherance of the special relationship between the United States and the Indian tribes and their members and the federal responsibility to Indian people. We have the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division is here as well. Having somebody from the Civil Rights Division here to hear these stories, NAIS, the U.S. attorneys, I'll work with them to work with civil rights to see what it is that the Department of Justice can do to support you.
What I want to do is I want to be able to say, this is our program, and this is how we're going to work with our children and our families. And so you, federal government, because of all your obligations that you have to us, you need to fund us. And I don't think it should take 9 years to do that. I get frustrated because I think that we have competent people. All of my social workers have master's level degrees. We work in our own community. So the people, all the children that I have in my care are my relatives.
So 4E does really talk about how you can work with child support and how you can work with TANF and how you work with Medicaid. There's sections in that particular law that ties all of those services together. So it can seem a little overwhelming and it can seem a little bit of complicated, but at the end of the day, you are talking about your kids and somebody's life. So there's nothing more important than that.
At this point, we have to look for alternative funding. We have to have the political will from our own coffers to do the planning, to start them, because we can't wait and fight forever to try to get the kind of funding that is based on state regulations.
The stories that you hear here and the comments, you know, I've heard for many, many, many years. The ability to deal with them is greatly impaired by the lack of resources.
We've seen so many things that have been wrong. And this is an act of terrorism against our own people and against our nations. And I believe with the federal authorities that are here today, we should issue warrants and have people arrested today, this week, for what has been done. Upila.
I can't get up here and say all these big words and try to make you believe something that I'm not. Because this is me here standing before you today. Woo! Woo! Action. So damn it, let's stand here, fight for our people. Let's fight for our little ones that can't fight. Each and every one of us. We're here for something today. And what is that? We're all here for our children to do the right thing. So I hope that we go back and take action. Because sooner or later, something's going to come to a head, and it's going to explode, and it's going to be big.
I am going to fight along with my relatives here in this room today to do everything to secure our children back home, to give them a safe environment, to teach them our cultures, our ways of lives, to make these atrocities go away. These I vow on behalf of me, the people of the Rosebud Sioux Tribe, and the Tribal Council. We are in the fight of ICWA today, tomorrow, and forever. Thank you.